am making the Saber armor. This video is going to talk about how to make the sword. You're gonna start with printing out. You can find a template online for Saber's sword, and you're gonna print that out. I have ratioed for my height, so I'm gonna add like 4 inches to the sword, just to make it a little bit longer. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is cut out all the pieces and tape them together. So now I finished these 2 pieces and I'm going to tape them together. I now have my sword template. It's long. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one of my sheets of foam, I believe the 6mm thickness, and I'm going to pin it on the sheet, and then I'm going to cut it out. I have my foam, I have some canvas underneath it so I don't cut my table. I have straight pins so that I can pin the sword template onto the foam, and I have an X-Acto knife kit to cut. So you're basically just going to want to straight pin the sword down. If you want the sides, the edges of your sword to look neat, slow and steady, I promise it's worth it. So here we go. Halfway there. So we have one side of the sword, and now I'm going to cut out the other side. Now I have 2 sides of the sword, and then what you're going to want to do is take this and cut this part out, because you're going to need to layer that. going to want to take these little pieces off and use the X-Acto knife to cut them out of these pieces. Time to do it all over again. Now I have two of these, one for each side of the sword. And if your little template has survived, as mine barely has, you're gonna want to cut this part off so you can have this part. And you're gonna cut one more piece. Just one more. It took me all of Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix, some of the credits, and 12 minutes to cut out every single piece. It takes a while. But now that you're done cutting, you can start gluing. I wish you luck. You can see I have a mess over here. I have a plastic curtain rod that I have made to be the length that I want. This is going to be towards the tip of the sword, and the bigger part is going to be the handle of the sword. I have my foam pieces. I have a heat tool. I use this to help the foam kind of be easier to mold around the rod. And gluing it, I have contact cement. I used hot glue last year and it worked, but it took a lot of time. So we're gonna see what contact cement does. I also did not use this last year when I made the first go around of this sword, and so we shall see how this ends up. Hopefully it ends up well. So I used my heat tool and I basically turned it on and just went down where the pole is and just kind of stretched a little bit so that it would look more like a sword. And now I'm using the concrete, contact concrete, to glue the sides together so that it's closed. the sword glued together. I have the blade part painted silver. So as you can see, it's kind of messy on these sides, and that's okay because we're going to paint over it in gold. But before we do that, I also like to paint the blue accents that go on the inside, because the likelihood of me getting blue over the gold is gonna be super high. So I have a nice royal blue, a nice thin little paintbrush, and I'm just gonna get in there and paint all these little things. And the nice thing about these being on the inside is that you don't have to wait for one side to dry before you paint the other side. So let's do it. So now I have the blue part on the inside. Now I'm going to do the other side and then let it dry and see if it needs another coat. And if it doesn't, then I'll break out the silver again and I'm gonna paint up in here. And then when that's dried, I'm gonna paint the rest gold. It is now gold. I have painted all of the sides, as you can see. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this duct tape and wrap it around the part of the handle that is left. And you can make it a little textured if you want, partially because it's really hard to make duct tape flat and have it move up a pole. But we now have Saber's sword. So all in all, this sword took me 3 days to complete, and I'm not technically done yet. I still have a gloss coat to put over the paint to protect it, but that's kind of optional. I like to do it so the paint doesn't chip or smudge, and it helps it look shinier like a sword. The next video I will be making will be about Saber's body armor, so stay tuned for that.